Welcome to Acton Line, a product of the Acton Institute promoting a free and virtuous society. I'm Mark Townsend, producer. You can find additional resources in the show notes for this episode, as well as previous episodes of Acton Line at acton.org/podcasts. If you have a comment or an idea for a future episode, you can email us at podcast@acton.org. Acton Line is available to stream on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and acton.org. Want to watch more from Acton? Visit ondemand.acton.org. There you will find hundreds of lectures, conferences, and Acton events through the years. They're categorized, free, and more content is regularly added.
Today on Acton Line, we have the pleasure of talking with Gabe Coyne and Collin Duff, co-founders of Stix Golf and Host Modern. Gabe is a designer, software engineer, and serial entrepreneur whose work spans digital products, large-scale mobile platforms, and fast-growing consumer brands. He went on to a career as a designer, developer, and eventually running a creative studio in Seattle for over a decade. He later co-founded Influence Mobile, serving as the CTO and building up one of the top mobile networks in the world, reaching tens of millions of users. Afterwards, Gabe joined Proto Ventures, partnering with an early-stage founder and Fortune 100 companies to create new digital products and guide innovation efforts across industry. Today, Gabe is the founder of Stix Golf and co-founder of Host Modern, two high-growth consumer brands known as for their thoughtful design, storytelling, and standout product performance. He frequently speaks on entrepreneurship, modern brand building, product innovation, and scaling technology and supply chain systems. Lives in the suburbs of Chicago with his family. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here, Dan.
Really
Thanks
glad.
for having me.
Collin is an entrepreneur and product leader who loves building products, make everyday life better. He began his career in the nonprofit faith and work space, shaping his approach to purpose-driven leadership and thoughtful product development. His first business venture was Viator Coffee Company, started as a way to gain hands-on entrepreneurial experience, and has since expanded into catering, cafe operations, roasting, and completed its first acquisition for further growth. He then co-founded Stix Golf, where he served as VP of Operations and now leads as head of product, helping design the modern, high-quality golf gear and managing their global production. He's also the co-founder and COO of Host Modern, a fast-growing home goods company, which we'll link to both of these companies in the show notes. And it has a very innovative vacuum-sealed serveware. He oversees product design, manufacturing, and company operations as the brand continues to scale. Across his roles, Collin blends creativity, practical problem solving, and specializing in product development. He lives in the Chicago area with his family and enjoys reading theology. Collin,
Right.
glad you're here.
Yeah,
That's a great mix.
Good to be here.
No, gentlemen, this is a long time coming. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And can you just tell me, let's start with you, Gabe. It sounds, from that bio, you've been kind of entrepreneurial or interested in business and growth for your whole career. How did that get started? What inspired you to get into this?
What inspired, I think, the entrepreneurial leap was kind of a moment of, asking myself, who do I trust more, this employer or myself to kind of create the future that I want? And it was at a time where I was freelancing 2 hours a day, and then I was taking a 1-hour bus to my full-time job, working 9 to 5, taking another 1-hour bus ride home. And it got to the point where I was making as much money in those 2 hours in the morning before that 10-hour trek. So I knew, to create the future I want, I don't think the 9 to 5 is going to do it. And so that's what kind of led to the entrepreneurial leap eventually to start my own creative services company. And then it all kind of evolved from there.
Yeah.
I tell my sons, do your best work every time you do anything, and doors open up. And so in running that creative services company, it was one of my clients that actually recruited me out to be the technical co-founder of Influence Mobile.
Nice.
After about a decade of working with different clients.
Mm-hmm. And that was all out in Seattle, right?
That was in Seattle.
So is there something in the water? Seattle is known for founders and these kinds of things. Was there something about the environment, or is that, anecdotal?
I think so, right? You got Microsoft, you got Google, you have Amazon. So
Boeing was out there.
yeah, so I think you have a lot of people. It feels like an area of opportunity, innovators, and it seems like anything's possible when you have those kind of stories
Yeah.
around you. I think there's a lot of startup culture and events and like-minded people that you do find, especially when you're a contractor, a creative services kind of person, you're working with founders all the time on their brand, on their product, on their website, their software. So you're always working with these kinds of people. I was actually working with 4 different founders, building their product prototypes when I decided to join Dan at Influence Mobile.
All right.
And all of them, they were kind of courting me to be their technical co-founder, and I was kind of vetting them by building their prototype and seeing what they could do with it. The guy I ended up co-founding Influence Mobile with was kind of the first time I was like, okay, this person seems like they can actually make this happen. Like, I can build a lot of stuff, but who do I want to partner with that can actually like make it happen?
Execute, yeah.
He had built a company that had grown to 80 million in EBITDA previously, and I was like,
He's the one.
yeah, I'll hitch my wagon to that guy.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Collin, you had a little more circuitous route,
Yeah.
But grew up in Seattle as well, in that general area. And to just give me the brief on-ramp for you, it seems like
it's totally confusing for most people who see my resume or my education background. So vastly different than Gabe's story. My future was headed towards academics. I had recently graduated with my master's in theology and was going to go get my PhD in theology. And my wife and I were about to have a baby, so we put that on hold. This was around 2017, and took a part-time job and while I was in school, and moved over, and I was in classical education. So I was kind of just floating while I was figuring out what I was going to do, and then ended up moving into this faith and workspace that you mentioned in the intro. That was a really unique job because what it did was it exposed me to Christian business leaders, Christian entrepreneurship. So effectively what it was like business education and roundtable advisory boards for Christians, small to medium-sized businesses.
And that was in Chicago, right?
That was in Chicago, yeah. So what we'd do is we'd produce the content, we'd help facilitate those once-a-month roundtables, and it ended up being a real blessing to hundreds of business owners that were a part of our membership at that time. But daily, I was in the midst of producing business content, go-to-market strategies, sales strategies, how to, incorporate governance, compliance, you name it. And eventually I got to the point of like, wait a minute, like, why don't I just try this? But the impetus really was this, as coming out of grad school and wanting to go get my PhD, I had professors and colleagues that were very honest and transparent with me about job prospects. And so because they were good, godly men and women trying to give me some sense of what was in store for me, they basically said, don't go into debt. And so really what the impetus for the entrepreneurial route was I feel equipped, I have all this business education, but how can I find a mechanism that will fund future PhD studies so that I can go do what I really love to do, but not go $250,000 into debt for a PhD, only to come out and not be able to find a job. So that's when I launched the the coffee company, and then that obviously evolved to where we are today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you both founded companies or co-founded companies, and they're great. You have golf clubs kind of in the golf space, and then you have Host Modern. And Collin, you and I were going back and forth. What industry, like what category is Host Modern?
It's a little bit hard to place as we even think through how to describe the product, or when we import the good, what do we import it under? But effectively, it fits somewhere between kitchenware, serveware, and kitchen and garden of all things. Yeah.
So Gabe, describe what is Host Modern? What is the product?
Yeah. So Host Modern is a company. Our first product, our flagship launch product, is our thermal serving dish. And what it is essentially everyone's popular vacuum seal thermal coffee mug for food, right? So everybody drinks their coffee out of a Yeti or a Stanley or something, and they enjoy hot coffee from 6 a.m., and they can be sipping on that thing until lunch and it's still hot, right? While at the same time, we are all eating lukewarm food all the time that just doesn't stay hot from stove to table, from oven to event. Even if you have kids coming home late from events and you're trying to just like keep the food hot for a period of time, there just wasn't that simple mechanism for food before this. So it is a vacuum seal thermal container for food that is rectangular, and yes, it fits your casserole dish.
Yeah, that question comes up all the time. I mean, in our earliest research, it was like, we love the idea, but can I put my casserole dish in it? And the original design was no. And then we were like, let's just take all this feedback.
We can't keep saying no.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, let's repurpose it. And that was a hit.
I love it. That's all. And tell me just briefly, Collin, maybe you take this one on the, wasn't there a Kickstarter campaign, or what was the idea of getting it
for
going?
sure. This is very much a part of how Gabe and I think about our own personal and collaborative entrepreneurial journey, where the startup phase is super exciting, but we also we think about our own professional development and our experience. And we know that Kickstarters exist and have supported them, or have friends and colleagues that have done them. And we thought to ourselves, we can raise capital. We have, angel investors that we could go to, which we did for Host Modern, but we were like, why not do a Kickstarter just to have the experience of doing a Kickstarter? So running ads in the early days, building some momentum, launching it, watching performance, it also gave us some insight into price sensitivity. Where do we position these packages? How much are people willing to spend? How long are they willing to wait? So in terms of validating the product, it's great because it's early stage and kind of little risk. But it just honestly gave us, now we can go to others and say, we've done a Kickstarter, we know how to do it successfully, and we can help you do it.
Mm-hmm. But didn't you meet your goal within a really short amount of time?
Yeah. In some ways, it clearly is a sign of product market fit. People liked the idea and wanted to support it. The goal is always slightly arbitrary because you can have a $100 goal, and then absolutely crush it. But no, it was sizable. It was over $10,000, and I think we finished at something like 120 to 125,000 over 30 days. And so it very much outperformed our expectations and kind of put us on the map for a successful direct-to-consumer launch, which followed about a month later.
That's great. So that was Host Modern, and we were talking a little bit earlier offline about the idea that creating Stix helped you launch even more efficiently into Host Modern. Gabe, tell me, what was the idea of Stix? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And just tell us what is Stix?
Yeah. Well, Stix and Host Modern and other products that we create generally come from solving a personal problem. Mm-hmm. So Stix started when I was shopping for golf clubs. After playing golf casually for 20 years with the same set of clubs I bought right out of high school, at a Big Five, as a set that's a brand that no longer exists. And I didn't know or care, right? My shopping criteria was it needs to look great, it needs to feel good, and I want to buy it as a set, and I don't want to spend a crazy amount of money. And so when I started shopping for golf clubs, I'm quickly getting sucked into what feels like a strange world of golf shopping, right? Everything is very complicated. Everything is very expensive. I'm feeling like it shouldn't be more complicated to buy golf clubs than it is to buy a computer. And it certainly is feeling that way here. I need to work with a professional. I need to get a fitting. I need to have all my numbers, tracked by a launch monitor, and I need to buy every single club specifically made for me. And after I buy it, I then need to get a new shaft put in it to make it perfect. I'm like, guys.
You take those clubs and then you're still terrible on the course. That's the thing, right?
For sure. So, to me, it felt like golf was begging for a Harry's Razors, a Dollar Shave Club, a Casper's mattress.
The direct-to-consumer.
An Allbirds shoe. Yeah, somebody just approaching it differently and making it simpler. Because I wasn't attracted to any of this. I was like, I want a Google golf club set and find the one D2C brand that's clearly doing it differently, is getting great reviews, and I can just buy the thing and be done with it. I didn't want to sign up for a 6-month education here. I just wanted a new set of clubs.
So from inception of idea, that idea that you don't want to buy a new set of clubs, you don't want to go through all of that, to company, how long was that duration?
It's a good question. I think when the idea initially came, the doubt was, am I the only person that wants this? Is there a reason this doesn't exist? Have other golf companies found that like nobody wants that? People either want cheap garbage in a box, like the existing starter set option, $200 to $300, use it for a year maybe, but that's not good stuff, or $300 or $3,000. Like maybe golf has found that's all that anybody wants is super cheap or super high end, because this middle ground is being ignored. What was your question though? Because it does tie back.
Just from the initial idea of how long did it take for you to iterate into an actual company that you wanted to do?
Yeah. I love speed. And I think we had a conversation on a golf course, and we were like, we should see if anybody else wants this, right? And I think we had a logo in a day. We had a demand test running in 2 days. I think we had our own website in a week.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had kind of built some reasonable validation around the concept, but timing was terrible. This was quickly moved into COVID. Golf courses are closed.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, probably not the best time to launch a golf company when nobody can actually golf. So we actually iced it for like 9 months.
Wow.
And brought it back when golf courses started reopening, and suddenly golf
weren't they one of the first things to open up? Because outside
they were. So golf experiences a whole new boom where it's one of the best socially distanced activities you can do. And golf is suddenly hotter than anything. I think the next PGA event that was live after it came back was like the highest viewership of all time.
Yeah, that's right.
So we were like, we have a golf concept. Maybe we should dust that off. And that was still reasonably quick. Like we validated the concept. We proved kind of product market fit, consumer demand. So now we're like, okay, we got to actually build clubs, and we need to, we had turned on pre-sales early on and nobody bought. We're like, okay, maybe it's just dead. But when we came back, we were like, okay, I think we just need we actually did some surveys and we were like, hey, you seemed interested. Why aren't you buying? And people were like, well, who are you? Like, yeah, it's cool, but before I give you my credit card, I kind of want to see some reviews, some press, some real photos.
I was just going to say actual photos of the golf clubs instead of 3D renderings,
So we I don't know. What do you think? Within 3 months?
3 months? 90 days?
Basically ordered 100 sets of clubs. We got our first set. We did photos, and we did a demo day where it was feedback for beers.
That's right.
At a driving range.
And these aren't rebranded clubs, right?
No.
These are your product.
Originally, it was pretty lightweight. We kind of used some
we used like a base model
molds. We had ordered some. We had done some focus groups, found kind of some ready to go models that we just reskin, because part of our hypothesis here was like, it's not rocket science. You can grab something that performs pretty well, feels well, and just make it not look terrible.
Yeah.
And like people will want it at a good price.
Yep.
So that's what we did. We took some off the shelf stuff. We just made it all black from some of the research we had done. We had 100 sets, and we said, look, this is all side hustle at this point. If we can sell those 100 sets in 100 days, we'll consider it a win.
Yeah.
Right? Then we'll continue down this path. We sold out in 2 weeks. And so right out of the gate, we were like, okay, here we go again. Like consumer demand looked good from a feedback perspective. Now people are putting dollars on the table.
Yeah.
We're out of clubs. So then started raising money, building the team, ordering more clubs, kind of going right into pre-order mode.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. So pretty quick. I mean, like validation phase, a week to a month, pause for 9 months, and then kind of 3 months of let's go.
Yeah.
And then we were within that first year of turning things on. I think we did 300,000 in sales
in the first couple of months to finish 2020, and then in 2021 that went up to 8 million in sales. So it was a significant jump.
So when did you jump in, Collin? When did you?
The first week. I mean, Gabe came to me and he basically said, "Hey, I'm going to pay you as a contractor to help me do some operation stuff," because I had experienced that with. It actually started with organizing a photo shoot with models in our clubs, I think. This is a part of like, we are a real company and this is a real product. And then I think I came to him. I remember standing in his kitchen and basically saying, like, I want to keep doing this. I was working for the Faith and Work nonprofit at the time. And he was like, all right, I'll pay you X amount per hour. We'll schedule X number of hours. And I was like, how about you bring me in as a partner and give you a whole lot more than that? So I think we talked about it for 15 minutes and he was like, okay. So this was July of 2020. And then very quickly, I took on that operations role. I think it was first week of July, and then by September 1, we launched. So it was very fast.
Very fast.
Yeah.
And what did you find, once you had that product validation, you sold those 100 clubs, did then you have to go over, and source things at that point?
Well, we had already sourced to get those 100, so it was just a matter of like
scaling.
Another
Scale.
PO.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, are not fast. Even when you got your design and your supplier and everything, you're like, hey, we want more. And they're like, cool, 90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus shipping time. You're like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
I had come from a software world where it's like you don't run out of inventory. You can sell an app all day long and add inventory. And now it was like 120 days till we can get another
That was
set.
actually one of my questions, moving from kind of a hyper digital.
Yeah.
Your background is hyper digital.
Yeah.
And then moving to physical products like golf clubs and warming dishes, which are, by the way, if you're listening to this and you haven't looked up Stix, and they're aesthetically very pleasing in the design. They're very modern in how they look. And what did you do? I mean, was that consciously at the beginning? You're like, these just need to look good too. Like, was that part of your intentionally aesthetically?
Yeah, that was one of
pleasing?
the pain points to solve, right? One was like, these are, we always say golf seemed overhyped, overpriced, and overdesigned. Those were the three problems we wanted to solve.
Yeah.
And the design ethos from day one was in a loud room full of people screaming, I'm more high tech than you. We're going to stand out by being silent. We wanted to prove from the beginning that we can jam pack a full set of clubs with great quality and features that doesn't look crazy, and just kind of like show everybody like, hey, everything that's going on there kind of means nothing. Like we can bring you black golf clubs, which is like the most expensive. You only get black if you get the most expensive golf clubs. We're gonna get you minimal golf clubs, which again, only the highest end golf clubs are minimal. Everything that's already expensive is like neon lines and lightning bolts down the shafts and weights and sliders. And you ask anybody, do you know what to do with that weight? Have you ever replaced that weight? Have you turned that knob? They're like, I don't know what to do with that, right? But golf is just trying to sell you all this super fine-tuned, hyped tech for the gearheads, and most people are like, I don't even know what that does.
Yeah, I think we're also tuned into whether it's a generational thing, our being millennials, and the companies that we like tend to focus on the product and the solution that it solves versus distracting design. So if you think about like Apple is a great example. iPhone generation, we both have MacBook Pros, but like very similar. Like the design and the user experience is very non-distracting. The focus and the quality is the problem that it solves, or the benefit that it brings. And so the golf clubs are very similar in the sense that we wanted to focus on the main things and then remove the noise. And I think that resonated with people, especially in those early days.
Yeah, well, they're both beautiful products. I mean, you've done a great job with that as you've iterated through the different products too. But what always fascinates me, I travel quite a bit for work, get to meet very interesting people, and I've met a lot of founders. And the question for me, especially as an ethicist, trying to think through labor and how people work together, work well with when you move from the founder phase to actually scaling a company and bringing people on board. Founders, like you said, you like to move fast. And as soon as you start layering people, things don't become as frictionless as we like.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
You know what I mean? It complicates. Growth is good, but what was it like moving from kind of lean and mean and fast? And I know you still like that as a methodology, but how did you scale the products? Let's start with Stix, maybe. Like when you started to add people, what were positives, what were negatives, or how have you worked through that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of learnings there over the last few years. I don't think we were quite prepared for it. My creative services company was one or two people. The software company, we actually got up to kind of in the 30s, 40s of people. I think maybe 55 was the peak at the software company. But I've always been kind of a run and gun. I run the analogy of like I'm a Porsche. Like there's a lot of horsepower, but I can get from A to B fast, and I can pivot quickly. But sometimes you get to the point where you're like, you need a semi truck or a train right? They can move a lot of things in the same direction together, and I'm not great at that, right? You start attaching trailers to a Porsche, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I've had a lot of room to grow there over the years, but yeah, I mean, at Stix, um, it was a sudden, everything was exceeding our expectations, and it's we kind of talked a little bit about forecasting, but you're always like, how big is this going to get? How much do we need to ramp? How fast? How many people do we need? In what roles? What comes first? Well, we raise money, and you get a lot of internal and external pressures about the roles you need, the people you need, the types of team you should be building. So, I've looked at my whole career as a paid education.
That's great.
I have an associate's degree, and outside of that, I've learned everything else on the job.
Yeah.
This last 5 years has been my master's degree in team building, organization building, a lot of learnings.
Yeah, we've wrestled with this question, I think, over the years, both in recognizing our failures and I think our successes. Oftentimes, and this is slightly cliche, but your strength often ends up being your weakness. And Gabe and I work really well together because we can move really fast, but that makes me, I'll speak for myself, that makes me a poor manager. So when we scaled up at Stix, I think the expectation was we were quite deferential to the so-called experts that were coming in telling us who we needed to hire and how soon we needed to hire them. And 2021 was also a crazy time with staff bloat and employee benefits, and we're a family. It was a really interesting time. And I think we've reversed course since then, maybe too far. But so the team, grew from 4 to 35, and so the strength that allowed Gabe and I to kind of move the company forward so quickly ended up kind of working against us, because for me, I just was a poor manager. So I had people coming underneath me. It was sort of like, you have a ton of freedom, new employee. Yeah. Go build the process, make it amazing. You can do anything. You just need space, and you can do it. And then I would eject, go focus on my stuff, move it a mile forward, and come back 60 days later, and it's a total disaster.
So instead of micromanaging, you were macromanaging, and engineers out.
I think our mistake was thinking everybody's like us, which now we've learned. Okay, now I see how most different people work different ways, and I think our thought was like, I'm creating a golf company. I know nothing about that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, if I put you in a position where you know nothing, like, figure it out. Like, that's what we're all doing here, is figuring out the unknown. And that doesn't have a high hit rate, probably.
A lot of people are uncomfortable with that idea.
For sure.
They're looking for a job.
Yeah.
For sure.
And direction and structure and oversight.
Totally.
It's probably an oversimplification, but we've talked about generally there are people who are very comfortable building, blank slate. I'm going to build this process and systematize it and document it. And then there are other people who just want to execute the playbook, and they're very comfortable with that. And oftentimes there's confusion there between the two. And so I think we hired a lot of people assuming, you're a builder, just like me. We're going to build this together.
Yeah.
And they went in there and floundered. But, the truth is that transition from founder, do it everything, and I'm a co-founder, and that reflects the early days of Stix. There were several co-founders. I think it was our intention not to do that. We trusted, like, we're going to bring in other experts and people who know better than us. And ultimately that didn't work out. And so in kind of course correcting the overhiring and the non-expertise and people floundering, that's when we would do the founder jump in, fix the problem, and then I'm out for another 60 days. And then, that was 2 years of figuring out that whole thing was problematic. Yeah.
What did how did some of those, I don't know what word to put on, missteps or course corrections, how did that affect the way you took these ideas in creating a new company, another company? Because I know you're both involved in Stix still.
Yeah.
That idea of did you find yourself getting somewhat bored because of that founder build, move fast mentality, and you wanted another idea, or did this other idea just emerge and you're like, we can do both?
I always reach a phase about 4 years in where you've lost some of that fast-paced excitement, momentum. I think momentum is what keeps me engaged.
Yeah.
And once it gets very operationalized, then I'm far less excited day to day.
Yeah.
So part of that was like, I think I need to build something again itch. And I think one of the things that we took into Host Modern, we said, look, let's take all these learnings and let's apply them. And one of the big initiatives was we need to stay hands-on longer. We need to not delegate too soon, not offload too soon. We need to make sure by the time we offload something, it's a well-oiled machine that we're just handing off for somebody else to run.
Rather than assuming that by bringing in an ostensible expert in an area that they'll come in and build it. We need to own it from end to end. And then at a certain scale, it makes sense to delegate that, but not until there's a mature, documented process. And like you said, well-oiled machine. We just did that way too early at Stix.
Yeah. Because we were growing fast. And we also, I think there was either naivety or insecurity that or just an honest truth, I don't know how to do that thing. So I should bring somebody else in to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And now I think you're okay, we have at least some experience with a lot of these things from the last 5 years. So we now have the confidence probably to say, let's at least take a first pass on this process. We know something at this point.
That's right.
And there's a trend I've noticed the last year or two, moving. Some people call it different things, but this idea of fractional, fractional CFO, fractional COO, and these variations. And it sounds like you've used a little bit of that in your companies. How have you found that experience?
Hit or miss over time, but I do think we're settling into a good place with that. Stix has gone from 35 employees down to 10 while scaling revenue by 3x.
Wow.
And that is a lot of making sure the core team is a team of strategists and problem solvers and managers that have their own kind of team of contractors and fractional experts that are external. Because at the end of the day, even at a company the size of Stix, not every role is a full-time gig, even at our scale, right? So we use a fractional media buyer and a fractional social media manager and a fractional, a controller. And, there's a lot of things where people can manage our scale with 25 to 50% of their time. And they're experts in it, and they're getting exposed to similar problems from their other clients that they can bring that shared knowledge into Stix. So I think we found a place that we really like on the fractional side that we've also carried over to Host Modern.
Yeah. I think in the early days too of Stix, there was the assumption that every role was a full-time role. I mean, we hardly even considered part-time at all. It was just there's so much to do. We're growing so fast. We need you, and that just actually was not the case. When jobs are clearly defined and deliverables are clearly defined and processes are somewhat automated or replicable, and there's software solutions that are utilized, so much of that manual work that just eats up time, kind of just wasted, say, answering emails, scrolling, all that stuff. There's a lot of positions that don't justify a FTE role. And so it makes sense to go out to someone who is managing 10 other clients and has a process and is doing a really good job and bringing them into your ecosystem. So it has been a success.
And Collin, you've done some work on this too, I think, about hiring, company culture, I guess.
Yeah.
How have you, is there a way, both of you thought about this idea of what you want to create in a company culture?
Let me give one little anecdote here.
Yeah.
We have one of our favorite hires was a woman in finance, and Collin had this culture deck that he developed that he would onboard every new employee with. And she said that after her onboarding, she was almost in tears and so excited because she was coming in on finance and she'd worked on a lot of finance teams. And she was like, after getting through that onboarding deck, I was so inspired and so excited to join this team. So then I'll hand it back to you, Collin.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Yeah. This idea.
I think a part of it is a reflection of deeply held Christian beliefs about the dignity of the people that we're working with. I mean, that's fundamental. Just the way that we operate and we think about the individual, the woman and the man sitting in front of me with dreams and hopes and physical needs. That's a very real thing. But at the end of the day, Gabe and I also from day one, we were just like, we want people to love working here.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is there's some tension here that Gabe and I have discussed a handful of times. We want this to be the best place you've ever worked. And for some people it has been, and for other people that are no longer at Stix, this is not the case, right? And so that's partly a leadership failure. But by being able to define, like, here's our intention as your employer, as your leadership team, is to see you taken care of, I think that's right, and it's good. And I think it is a reflection of the fact that we are called to care for people. I mean, as simple as that, right? The tension is there is oftentimes a blurring of the lines between, like, this is also like a sports team, that there's an obligation and a deliverable on the other side where, like, well, I'm a soccer player, like a starting 11, there's people on the bench and there's people who didn't make the cut, on the team. And so the confusion, the tension between the dignity of the individual in front of me who has needs and the good of this business is that it can actually take care of some of those needs or provide for those needs, while at the same time, we as the leaders of the company expect you to deliver. And if you're not on the starting 11, then we have to find an all-star player. Do you know what I mean? There is that balance between care, irrespective of deliverables, because you're a human, and wait a minute, like, we have performance goals and objectives and the business needs to run well, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that is a tension that we have felt pretty much since the first month of the business.
And how did you, I guess today, Ray Dalio came out with this, he had an interview in the last few days, and this idea of company culture at Bridgewater for Ray Dalio, the billionaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He argued that, look, our company culture is full transparency. Like, he goes, as a founder, as an idea, as an ideas guy, I come in with a lot of ideas, but you have the ability to speak back to, like, they created, for lack of a better term, just a fully transparent 360 environment where we want everybody on board and to engage those ideas. How did you learn through the process? You said, some of it might've been leadership, which I appreciate you saying.
Yeah.
Leaders have a hard time saying a lot of ones that I failed, or I'm not good at visioneering or something like that. So how did you make those course corrections when you're realizing either?
I can give a quick one. The truth is I removed myself from certain responsibilities that I'm just not good at. So for instance, my failure to properly manage a team, which I think an individual employee is utterly responsible for what they do, but in another sense, like, I as a manager can contribute and help in a meaningful way to their success. The truth is I am a weak manager. And so I think one of the ways that I address that cultural failure is I removed myself from much of that management responsibility. And we hired someone who is incredibly good at it. And I think that's we've talked about key hires in the past, and we can get into this later, but I think that was one of the best moves. I moved into something that I was better at, and I could focus on it. That may come off as like a coward's way out, because I could improve my management skills, and I tried, I met with a coach and stuff, and there was some progress there. But at the end of the day, I think people needed a different personality type, a different driver. And I could recognize that. And then by moving out our current CEO, who's stable and consistent, he does a much better job. So I had to recognize that weakness, and I had to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Strength Finders test. You're familiar with this?
Absolutely.
And, I've had people say to me over time, I guess the quote that I love, somebody said, people need to stop telling founders to grow up, right? Like, we are good at a certain thing. We're great at starting stuff and getting stuff from 0 to 1. Does that mean we have to become great managers, great organizational leaders, or do we just need to, and Brad, the CEO that we brought on at Stix, has allowed me to, and you as well, focus on what we're great at.
Yeah.
And I think some of these learnings going into Host Modern has changed how we build that organization, because if we both recognize, like, hey, neither of us wake up dreaming about managing a 10-person team.
For sure.
Right? When we started Stix, I was hesitant. I was like, I don't ever want to, like, be dealing with a warehouse full of products and boxes and shipping and and having a big old team. Like, I don't dream of those things. What I dream of is like getting cool new products to market and making great creatives and momentum. So I think it's, for us, changed how we structure. And I think there's that recognition that if we got to a place with a business that we built and we knew there was a big management human component, we know that that's a type of person we need on the team to carry that. You can decide to focus on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know the analogy, right? Like, they did the speed reading tests, and the kids who read fast already, given some education and training on that, increased by 4x. And the kids who didn't read fast natively, they improved by 20%. So yes, could we be better managers? We could, but I'd prefer to double down on our strengths.
Yeah. So the virtue there is probably noticing the weakness.
I think so.
And not necessarily, like you said, not necessarily maybe improving yourself. And it's not that you're not thinking you're incapable of it, but noticing the weakness and then filling the void with someone else, not running over people continuously. Because you have to learn, right? I would assume, or you wouldn't.
Yeah. Who are your builders? Who are your managers? Who are your doers? Recognize what you need, put the right people in the right places where that's what they're best at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, that's great. And you think about, I love studying the history of technology and the technology, the ways technology changes cultures. And a lot of people they like to build, let's talk about the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a major architectural feat, right, to build that. But then people don't think about infrastructure and like maintenance. Mm-hmm. Maintenance is the boring part of but you need to maintain anything you build or it degrades. And so I think that's how I'm starting to think about it in some of my writing. And it's you do need a maintainer. You need somebody to have maintenance. Somebody needs to be in the warehouse with the boxes.
Yeah.
Right. And so if the antipathy to that comes, if your antipathy, like, I don't want to do that, means no one should do that, that seems like a bad cultural.
Yeah.
Right.
And maintenance is hard. Maintenance is not fun.
No.
Right. Like, I've been in my house 8.5 years now, and I'm starting to replace things for the second time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nothing I ever want. I thought, if I replace it, I'm good for life.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I got to replace the pool liner again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The roof, the water heater, whatever. Like, this is crazy. Time for a new house.
In terms of a quick staffing anecdote, I think going back to the CEO hire that we made, Stix was growing and we had doubled again. And I think in retrospect, there was the lack of an individual in the leadership team who was the pure operator, who brought stability and consistency and foresight. You have a group of people who are energetic, dynamic, product-oriented designers, and all we wanted to do was make new stuff. And we didn't stop to go like, yeah, but who's going to buy that? Or like, who's that made for? And we're like, I don't know. It's just awesome.
And how are we going to afford to PO that thing? And
who's going to pay for that? And we're like, we were asking ourselves that question, but that wasn't our primary concern. We were just like, no, it looks great. It's going to perform awesome. People are going to love it. And that cost us a lot of pain and money, that type of thinking. It was good and we needed it to scale, but eventually we needed the hub of the wheel that kept everything like working together. And that is a great hire we made as our current CEO.
Your current CEO?
Yeah.
I like the analogy of gas and brakes. A lot of founders are a lot of gas pedal.
For sure.
And they see everybody else's brakes. Because they're slowing down the progress, and I don't know if that's fully accurate, but I
think so.
It's simplified. But I think the gas, and I've seen a lot of founders and co-founders that it's all speed all the time, and anybody that has any questions or how do you want us to execute or any kind of drag.
Yeah.
You guys are high speed, low drag,
yeah.
And then the people are like, okay, we need a little drag to figure out how to execute what you want done.
Yeah,
is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think very much so. And I think the reason that this works here with Gabe and myself is that of the two of us, I'm more of the drag. So we, in how we've divided responsibilities, even at Host Modern, Gabe generally drives product design, creative, marketing, branding, which is awesome, and I love. But that's not my thing. And then I tend to do ops and the rest. And there is a healthy checks and balances, especially like as we look at the model. My mantra to Gabe is always like, nah, make that more conservative. Make that more conservative. As we head into Q1, like our return on ad spend number there, you have it at this. I think let's bring it down 25%. And there is this like, yeah, dude, I'm all for speed and stuff, but if there is a little drag in this duo here, it would be me, and I think that's one reason that it works super, super well.
Yeah. What do you think as you're looking forward? You both are with Viator Coffee and then Stix and now host Modern. You with your whole slate of companies and then Stix, host Modern. What influence, where do you go for influence or interest now? Do you read blogs? Do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? Or is all of this kind of a one way of saying it is self-determination? Is it just all of your inspiration comes from inside, or what is inspiring you?
As far as what to build next,
yeah, but in any way, really, what inspires you? Is it to grow in leader? You noticed your leadership weakness, and you want to grow in that a little bit, or focus on running the business 3-4 times better than you are, or what inspires you? Because what I find with a lot of people that are driven about business, when you start to talk to them, it's all business. And there's much of the integrative life. There's a wholeness.
Yeah.
I'm turning 50 this year, and so I've been thinking a lot about that. It's my 25th wedding anniversary. So I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4. This is my 10th year at Acton. There's different benchmarks. I'm on different communities. So I have my vocation is different in those spheres.
Yeah.
But I'm me. I'm Dan. I just inhabit those different spaces and different things. My wife inspires me, daily, right? In different ways. And so what inspires you to live that integrative life? Because you're not just entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Both of you are husbands and fathers. And what keeps you interested in life?
Yeah. I probably a couple of key things. I'm still a bit of an oddball in the entrepreneurial space. A core motivation, I think, is my inescapable evangelical conviction about calling, as much as I want to fight the concept and how meaningful it is, but a purposefulness in thinking through a particular vocation which consumes a huge amount of my time, right? Like being thoughtful about that, and as an extension of that or inseparable from that is family and provision. Just like brass tacks, paying the bills, thinking about my children's future. But there is this element to the motivation, I think collaboration with Gabe, the high of thinking of a thing, making the thing, selling the thing, and then thinking that, wow, we've sold hundreds of thousands. They're just out there. Like that is invigorating. It's totally, totally energizing. So there's a mix there of like Christian vocation as a father and a husband and provision, the excitement of the victory, the win in business. But in terms of like intellectual stimulation, I'm still thoroughly a theologian. And like this is the joke is if you were to go to my room, my bedside table, it's book on the French Revolution, the collapse of the late Bronze Age Greek civilization, a book, a Lutheran theologian, Robert Jensen, and a poet. My reading habits from education haven't changed. That stuff still.
As an evangelical, though, you didn't say the Bible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh man. Sorry, honey. I'll apologize to my wife if she's listening to this. But so it's an odd mix of, like I said, calling and obligation or duty as like a theological category, and but the thing.
Where have those influenced? Is that do you find that a wholly separate idea where you go home at night from selling golf clubs and iterating the next vacuum sealed food warmer?
Yeah.
Which, it's very practical to reading Robert Jensen on, do you find those, because some people in the faith and work movement try to get away from Gnosticism, like that it's not the material, the body, all these things are just tangible and we shouldn't care about those. Everything theological and philosophical is heady.
Yeah.
Do you find what you've read, and you already said your slide deck about company culture, it
Yeah.
seems was a little affected by that, right? You're
Very much
reading-
so. Yeah, very much so. But the truth is like there's so much of what I do, scheduling container deliveries at a third-party logistics facility. There's so much of what I do that is like I'm actually comfortable with the dialectic, the tension between the tactical execution of my job responsibilities to keep these businesses going, looking at Pantone colors, fabric swatches as I choose the next golf bag polyester material. Like, could I make an argument that's a theologically informed decision? Probably not. But where people try to integrate, I've actually grown quite comfortable with the fact that there are two areas of my life. One that I'm like, that is a reflection of my duty to provide and that I am interested in and very energized by, but also this thing that actually speaks to my soul in a much more substantial way. Some people are uncomfortable with that and want to integrate it. I tend to actually see that as a function of my own creaturely finitude, Dan.
There we go. Right. How about you, Gabe? What inspires you when you're thinking about your life as in its wholeness?
I think at my core, I'm a creator. Always have been. Right. Visually creative. Software was a fun way to exercise that. I love problem solving. I love building. I love creating. I love moving fast. I think that's reflected in my home life. My wife and I dated for 4 months and then eloped to Vegas.
Wow.
His wife is my sister, by the way. My brother also.
We just celebrated 21 years yesterday. We wanted to wait 5 years before we had kids after we got married. By 5 years, we had 4 kids. So like, I think my whole life is, I don't know if I'm trying to prove something to myself or others about how much I can accomplish, how fast, but I do love to, I don't love to sit and, what's the word I'm looking for? Not debate, but deliberate too long on things. I like to just go. So I think I just thrive off momentum and creativity and independence. I think that's what drives my entrepreneurialism and a lot of the choices I've made at home with my family. And I'm now inspired and motivated by encouraging the next generation. My son, some of my kids have this entrepreneurial spirit, and some of them are still kind of figuring out what they want to do. But I love that they have this as an example of what can happen. I've got a 17-year-old who already moved out, and he's pursuing his entrepreneurial dreams. He moved out of state, and we fully supported that. I said, look, we took him out of school his junior year and said, look, you're ADHD and you're brilliant, and the classroom is not for you. So you've been able to teach yourself so many things your whole life. The classroom is not where you learn. He knocked out his next 2 years in 1 year.
Wow.
So he graduated a year early. He started building a portfolio of videography, cinematography, started creating a personal brand, working for other brands. So his senior year of high school now is him moved out and pursuing entrepreneurialism. He's going to be at the Super Bowl on his own, filming things next week. And so, that is exciting for me because I see entrepreneurship as like so freeing.
Yeah.
From a income cap to a creativity to being able to focus on your own strengths to being able to provide jobs, to create useful products, to solve problems. I think that is kind of the core of what inspires me kind of all around.
That's cool. So what then is next? As we wrap up here, what is inspiring you for the next phase? Do you have a couple companies? I don't know. I'm not looking for inside trader deals or anything, but what are there some ideas that you're throwing around for the next thing already? Or
yeah, we've always got kind of a backlog of personal problems that we want to solve that might solve things for other people. So we've got things in various stages from one conversation to products that have been fully developed by industrial designers, and we're sourcing. We have half-baked software projects. We have other things that we've sourced and put partial plans behind. At one point, I wanted to try to launch a company every 90 days.
Wow.
I think that's a little aggressive.
Maybe
From
like
what we've learned.
18 months, maybe.
It keeps shortening.
Okay.
But that is the most thrilling phase.
It is. Yeah.
Is the launch. And so I think something we've been talking about and I'm excited about is, one, doing some of that, but we also recognize kind of the weight of actually running all those things. So I think we're starting to get a little more interested in finding ways to partner with early stage entrepreneurs and coach, train, help them get on the right foot, whether that's equity deals or paid consulting, content creation, digital courses, potentially a book, are some of the things that I'm getting excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I like to pitch the idea of a portfolio of businesses. We have a couple of durable goods, like Stix and Host Modern, and then something with consumables. That one's kind of been sketched out, and then a couple of software plays. And I think, like as an extension of what Gabe is saying, there will come a point in time where, by God's grace, if we are successful with these variety of businesses and a variety of industries, I think it would be exciting to actually go out and help other founders avoid the massive mistakes that we made in the early days and help. It's funny, one of our other businesses is called Lighter Fluid, and it functions as sort of the shell for this future vision. And a lighter fluid is actually a fair description of what we'd like to do with other founders, is pour some fuel on that fire and help people scale and avoid errors and focus on the majors and ignore the minors.
Man, I love that. Investing your wisdom in others. That's a fantastic way to end. Gabe and Collin, thank you so much for having the opportunity to speak on Acton Line. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a great event tonight. A bunch of college students coming to hear you guys and your vision and your journey. Thank you for joining us at Acton.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, Dan.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Acton or hear more of this podcast, please visit acton.org/podcasts. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.